Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you to step out of the shadow of your problems and into the light of your possibilities. Every obstacle you face is not a cage, but a mirror, reflecting not just the struggle, but the strength you carry within. Too often, we fix our eyes on what has gone wrong, on the storm clouds above, and forget that within us lies the power to summon the sun. What if, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we asked, "How can I rise above this?" The answer is waiting in the space where courage meets creativity, where hope meets action. Let us journey together into that space today, where solutions bloom and problems shrink into lessons. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to imagine the world not as it has pressed itself upon you, but as it could appear if you change the way you see it. Life's challenges are not walls to keep you trapped, but windows to show you a view you have not yet noticed. Too often, we press our faces against the glass of our problems, trembling at the cold and refusing to turn the pain. But if we simply shift our gaze, if we simply tilt our perspective, we find that the same barrier that seemed so high, so unyielding, is nothing more than a passage waiting to be opened. When we shift our lens, the weight of the impossible begins to lighten. A challenge that once loomed like a mountain can become a hill, climbable step by step, each stone underfoot offering guidance. The problems we face are not meant to defeat us. They are meant to teach us, to awaken us, and to call forth the strength that we often forget is there. And this strength, my friends, is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers in the quiet decisions we make, in the patience we summon, and in the courage that lets us look at a problem and see the solution hiding in plain sight. Shifting your lens does not mean denying the difficulty, nor does it ask you to pretend that struggle does not exist. It simply asks you to meet it differently, to step back, to see not just what is wrong, but what can be made right. It asks you to turn your eyes from the shadow to the light, from the fear to the possibility. Imagine if the heroes of history had lingered only on their problems, if the dreamers and the creators had focused on the walls in front of them instead of the doors behind them. They would have remained small in the shadow of circumstance, but they chose differently. They chose to see beyond what was broken and toward what could be built. And so, I urge you to practice this shift, this small but profound turning of vision. Begin by noticing where your attention lingers and ask yourself, am I staring at the problem or am I looking for the way through? For every difficulty, there is a perspective that illuminates a path, a perspective that transforms despair into determination. The moment you turn your gaze from the obstacle to the opportunity, the moment you choose to see the window where others see only a wall, you awaken not only your mind, but your heart. You discover that within you lies not just the ability to endure, but the power to transform. And when you carry this lens with you, everything changes. Your steps become deliberate, your choices become guided by clarity rather than fear, and the world itself begins to respond to your vision. The walls of yesterday shrink, the doors of tomorrow swing open, and you move through life not as someone trapped by circumstance, but as someone sculpting their destiny with each thoughtful glance, each conscious choice. Life, my friends, is never simply about what blocks us. It is about how we see, how we shift, and how we rise. There are moments in life when the weight of our problems feels unbearable, when the world presses against our chest and every breath seems heavy with worry. Yet it is in these moments that the mind reveals its true power, not in avoiding hardship, but in choosing how to meet it. Each problem you encounter carries within it a hidden lesson, a quiet invitation to see beyond the surface, to discover the path that leads not to defeat, but to growth. If you can shift your attention from the burden itself to the doorways it opens, you will find that no obstacle is insurmountable, no challenge without purpose. The mind, when empowered, can turn despair into insight and fear into opportunity. To empower your mind is to embrace curiosity in the face of struggle. It is to ask the questions that others overlook. What can I learn from this? Where is the solution waiting? How can I turn this moment of trial into a step towards something greater? These questions are more than words, they are keys, unlocking doors that fear would keep closed. The world is filled with people who see only the difficulty, who dwell in complaint and frustration. But the mind that seeks answers sees the threads of possibility woven through every problem. It notices the cracks in the wall and understands that light can always find its way through. Empowering your mind also means acting with courage, even when the outcome is uncertain. Knowledge alone is not enough. Insight must be paired with deliberate action. The mind that empowers itself does not wait for permission, does not linger in hesitation. It moves forward, step by step, making choices guided by clarity rather than by fear. Each action, no matter how small, carries the power to transform a challenge into a triumph. And in that transformation, the soul finds its own strength, a quiet confidence that grows with every problem faced, every lesson learned, every solution discovered. But perhaps the most profound power of the mind is its ability to reshape how we see ourselves and our world. A person who empowers their mind refuses to be defined by circumstance. They do not allow a single problem to cast a shadow over the light of their potential. They understand that setbacks are temporary, that every difficulty carries a lesson that once learned becomes a stepping stone. The mind that focuses on solutions sees opportunity where others see only impossibility, hope where others see despair, and courage where others see fear. This is the mind that leads, that inspires, that transforms not only its own life, but the lives of all who come into its orbit. And so, I tell you, do not shrink from the problems before you. Do not linger in anxiety or frustration. Empower your mind, and you will discover that each challenge holds a secret passage, each difficulty a teacher, each fear a spark that can ignite the courage within. Life does not demand perfection, it demands presence. It does not ask for certainty, it asks for willingness to learn, to grow, and to act. Step into that power, claim the lessons hidden in every struggle, and let your mind guide you toward solutions that illuminate your path, strengthen your spirit, and transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. There are moments when worry creeps into our hearts like a shadow, whispering fears about what could go wrong, magnifying every obstacle until it feels larger than life. Anxiety has a way of convincing us that we are powerless, that the storm we face will never end, and that we are trapped by circumstance. But I am here to tell you that worry, no matter how persistent, cannot build the life you dream of. Worry can only multiply the weight of the problem, making mountains of what are, in reality, small stones. Action, on the other hand, has the power to transform those stones into stepping blocks, leading you forward with confidence and clarity. The difference lies not in the difficulty of your situation, but in the choice you make to move, to rise, to act. When we allow anxiety to dominate, we lose ourselves in the what ifs and the maybes. We replay the same fears over and over as if repetition alone will provide a solution. But the mind that chooses action understands that clarity emerges not from rumination, but from movement. Each step, each choice, no matter how small, is a declaration of courage, a refusal to be paralyzed by fear. It is in the doing that the mind discovers its strength, the heart finds its rhythm, and the spirit remembers that it has always been capable of more than it believed. To act in the face of anxiety is not recklessness. It is a conscious decision to trust yourself, to trust that your hands and your mind can shape the outcome. Action has a way of illuminating paths that worry can never reveal. When you begin to do, the fog of doubt lifts, and solutions appear that were always there, hidden behind hesitation. A single step toward progress often brings more insight than hours of fretting ever could. Life rewards those who move, not those who wait, and courage is built one deliberate choice at a time. The person who acts is not fearless, but they refuse to let fear dictate the rhythm of their life. They understand that waiting for the perfect moment is waiting forever, and that growth is found not in stillness, but in motion. Even in the smallest acts, the power of action becomes evident. Sending that email, making that call, speaking that word of truth, taking that first step toward a dream, all of these are acts that multiply solutions. They break the spell of anxiety, proving that the future is not something to dread, but something to create. And with each act, confidence grows, fear diminishes, and hope blooms in the most unlikely of places. You begin to see that the storm is not your enemy, but your teacher, and that your hands, guided by intention, have always held the tools to navigate it. So I tell you, do not linger in worry. Do not let the shadow of what if steal the sunlight of what can be. Let your hands, your feet, and your heart take the first step, and then the next, and then the next, knowing that action, however small, is always larger than fear. Each movement toward a solution is a seed planted in the soil of possibility. Each choice made with courage becomes a bridge over the waters of doubt. Life asks not for perfection, but for motion. It asks not for certainty, but for the willingness to step forward, to meet the unknown, and to transform anxiety into the fuel that propels you toward your destiny. Negativity is like a storm that drifts into our lives, darkening the sky and making the path ahead seem treacherous. It whispers that we are not enough, that the challenges we face are bigger than we can bear, and that our dreams are too fragile to survive the world. But I am here to remind you that the storm, no matter how fierce, cannot extinguish the sunlight within you. The clouds of doubt, the winds of criticism, the rains of fear, they are temporary. What is eternal is the spark inside, the part of you that sees possibility, even when everything around seems impossible. Rising above negativity begins with the understanding that the power to choose your perspective always rests in your hands. When we dwell on negativity, we allow it to shape our thoughts, our words, and our actions. We magnify what is wrong and minimize what is possible. But when we rise above it, we reclaim our power. We step into the space where hope exists, where solutions take root, and where our energy is no longer spent feeding shadows but nurturing light. Rising above negativity is not denial, it is courage. It is the ability to face harsh words, unfair circumstances, and moments of doubt, and still see the potential for growth. It is to say, this does not define me, this will not control me, I will rise and I will shine. Negativity often comes disguised as truth, convincing us that the world is against us, that we are unworthy, or that our dreams are too big. But the heart that rises above sees through this disguise. It recognizes that words spoken in anger, moments of criticism, and the fear of others are reflections of their struggles, not your reality. When you rise above negativity, you build resilience. You develop the clarity to focus on what truly matters and the courage to pursue it relentlessly. Each act of refusal to be pulled down is a declaration. Your light is stronger than the shadows around you. Rising above negativity also means choosing who and what you allow into your inner world. It means surrounding yourself with voices that lift, with people who inspire, and with thoughts that nourish rather than poison. Life will always present moments of darkness, but your response to those moments determines whether they become walls or stepping stones. By rising above, you claim your power to create, to love, to dream, and to act in ways that expand rather than shrink your possibilities. The sunlight of hope is always there. It merely waits for you to turn toward it. And so I tell you, do not let the storms of negativity drown the sunlight that lives within your soul. Do not allow criticism, envy, fear, or doubt to steal your joy or your purpose. Rise above, and you will discover that even in the fiercest storms, there is a calm that cannot be touched. There is a light that cannot be extinguished. And when you stand in that light, your vision becomes clear, your strength becomes unwavering, and your heart becomes a beacon for others who are struggling to see beyond the clouds. Life asks not that you eliminate darkness, but that you rise above it, that you shine anyway, and that you allow your possibilities to illuminate the world around you. Creativity is not a talent reserved for artists or dreamers. It is the birthright of every human being. It lives quietly within us, waiting for moments when curiosity and courage meet, ready to illuminate solutions that the world cannot yet see. Too often, we think of problems as walls, rigid and immovable, when in truth they are puzzles, invitations to think differently, to imagine possibilities beyond what is obvious. To harness creativity is to refuse the narrow confines of this is how it has always been, and instead ask, what if? What if the obstacle is not the end, but the beginning? What if the answer has been quietly waiting, disguised in plain sight, for a mind willing to notice it? Creativity requires courage. It is easy to follow the familiar path, to remain within the borders of safety, and to settle for solutions that are mediocre or incomplete. But true creativity emerges when we step into the unknown, when we allow our minds to wander beyond the rules, the doubts, and the fears that limit us. When you approach a problem with curiosity rather than complaint, when you explore the possibilities instead of fearing failure, you begin to see that solutions are not found in repetition, but in imagination. Every challenge becomes a canvas, every difficulty a brushstroke, every setback a color, waiting to be blended into something new. The refusal to settle is a key part of this creative power. Too many of us accept the first answer, the easiest compromise, the quick fix, without considering the richness that patience and imagination can offer. Creativity asks you to dig deeper, to listen to the whispers of your own insight, and to trust that the mind and heart working together can craft solutions that surprise even yourself. When you refuse to settle, you refuse to let problems dictate the limits of your life. You begin to see that every obstacle has multiple answers, every struggle, multiple pathways, and that the most extraordinary outcomes often arise from daring to imagine what others cannot. Creativity also thrives in connection with yourself, with others, and with the world around you. It is born in dialogue, in reflection, and in the courage to combine ideas in new ways. The person who harnesses their creativity does not wait for perfect conditions or complete certainty. They begin with what they have, with what they know, and with the willingness to explore. Every experiment, every attempt, every moment of inspired action brings them closer to solutions that are not just practical, but transformative. Creativity transforms not only the problems we face, but the people we become in the process. And so I tell you, do not fear the unknown. Do not shy away from the questions that seem too large or the challenges that seem too complex. Let your curiosity lead you. Let your courage guide you, and refuse to settle for anything less than the brilliance that lies within you. Solutions are not discovered. They are imagined, nurtured, and brought to life by those who dare to see differently, to think differently, and to act differently. Harness your creativity, and you will find that every problem is not an ending, but an invitation, a spark, and a stepping stone to a life of purpose, possibility, and extraordinary achievement. Sometimes we look at the problems in our lives and see them as mountains, towering and immovable. and we feel small, insignificant, and powerless. We think that unless we can leap over the entire obstacle at once, our efforts are meaningless. But the truth is far different. Every great achievement, every meaningful change begins with a single step. It is not the size of the effort that matters most, but the decision to move forward, even when the way seems unclear. The tiniest action toward a solution carries more power than hours spent lamenting, worrying, or complaining. Each small step, no matter how humble, is a declaration. I refuse to be paralyzed. I refuse to be defeated. I will keep moving. When we focus on the magnitude of the problem, we forget to honor the magnitude of our courage. Small steps build momentum, and momentum builds confidence. One phone call, one conversation, one decision, one change in perspective. These may seem minor, but they are the seeds of transformation. Imagine a river carving a canyon, not in a day, but drop by drop, patiently, persistently, until what seemed impossible becomes undeniable. Life works the same way. The consistent, deliberate steps we take toward a solution accumulate over time, quietly shaping outcomes and reshaping us into people capable of more than we ever imagined. Patience is a companion of small steps. We often underestimate the power of gradual progress because we are impatient for immediate results. Yet, the most enduring success is rarely sudden. It is the product of repeated effort, resilience in the face of setbacks, and a willingness to persist when the world seems indifferent. Each small victory, each tiny breakthrough is a building block. They do not appear grand when they happen, but in retrospect they reveal themselves as the foundation of remarkable change. To underestimate them is to underestimate yourself, your strength, and your capacity to transform challenges into solutions. Small steps also teach us the value of attention and intention. When we act deliberately, when we take even one step with focus and purpose, we cultivate a mindset that sees possibility rather than despair. Complaints are easy. They require nothing but the energy of frustration. Action, even small action, demands courage, creativity, and faith. And with each step, fear loses its grip, doubt loses its voice, and the path forward becomes clearer. Life rewards those who choose to move, not those who wait. It is the accumulation of these small acts of courage and focus that ultimately propels us beyond the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. And so, I urge you to begin where you are, with what you have, and to take the first step, no matter how small. Do not wait for perfect conditions or complete clarity, for they may never come. Trust that every action counts, that every step is a victory, and that progress, however incremental, is more powerful than stagnation. In the tapestry of life, it is these small threads, the little efforts, the consistent choices, the quiet perseverance that create the masterpiece. Step by step, solution by solution, you rise, and in that rise, the problems that once loomed so large shrink to a manageable size, and the path to your purpose becomes illuminated.